Hello everyone, welcome back to online lecture series on heat transfer. We are continuing our topic of heat exchanger. So let's begin. First, we will do a quick revision of our previous topics. Heat exchanger is a process equipment designed for effective transfer of heat energy between two fluids, that is hot fluid and coolant, and these are few examples of it. Now the next is classification of heat exchangers. It is done based on operating principle, arrangement of the flow path, and design and certain constructional features. First is according to the nature of heat exchange process, which is first is direct contact or open heat exchangers where two fluids are mixed fully. Next is regenerator, where some matrix is there in which heat is first transferred to solid matrix from the hot fluid. The heat energy is stored in this matrix and then it is given to the cold fluid. Next is recuperator, which is not having any kind of physical contact between two fluids, and these are the examples for the same. Next is according to the relative direction of motion of fluid. Here the heat exchangers are classified into three, that is parallel, counter and cross flow arrangement. So in parallel both fluids are having same direction of flow, in counter both are having opposite direction, and this is the cross flow heat exchanger when both fluids are at perpendicular direction to each other. Next classification is according to mechanical design of heat exchanger surface. Here first is concentric tube, that is we have already seen parallel and counter flow heat exchanger. Then shell and tube heat exchanger and multiple shell and tube passes. Then the physical state of heat exchanging fluids, that is here we will be discussing about condensation and evaporation. In condenser, the hot fluid, that is condensing steam, remains at constant temperature all along its passage through the heat exchanger, while the temperature of other fluid, that is coolant water, gradually increases from inlet to outlet. In evaporator, here the cold fluid, that is boiling water, evaporates at constant temperature while the temperature of hot gases continuously decreases from inlet to outlet. Now in condenser and in evaporator both are having phase change processes, so essentially the temperature will remain constant, and during this heat exchange process only latent heat will be utilized. Further classification can be done based on the temperature and pressure level of fluid, corrosiveness, toxicity and scale formation, and economic considerations. Next is performance analysis of heat exchanger. So here this is the block diagram where the hot fluid is entering at temperature TH1 and cold fluid is entering at temperature TC1, and they are leaving at TH2 and TC2 temperatures respectively. Here this is the thermal head or thermal potential defined as theta1, that is the temperature difference between two fluids at inlet, that is theta1, and temperature difference between two fluids at the outlet. Now the hot fluid gives up the heat QH, which is equal to mHCH TH1 minus TH2, and cold fluid picks up this heat QC is equal to mCCC TC2 minus TC1. That is our standard formula we discussed, mc delta T. And here we are generalizing this in terms of overall heat transfer coefficient. Q exchanger is equal to UA theta m, where U is overall heat transfer coefficient between two fluids, A is heat transfer effective area, and theta m is appropriate mean temperature difference. And this we are going to discuss today, that what is this appropriate mean temperature difference. So now we will discuss about overall heat transfer coefficient. These are some revision of our previous equations. And if the two fluids of heat exchanger are separated by a plane wall, the thermal resistance comprises of these three. That is, first is convection resistance at the hot film, wall conduction resistance, and convection resistance at the outer film or cold film. And thus we obtained the value of U for the plane wall. The next is, if it is a cylindrical wall, then the formula is getting changed, and by some assumptions, that is neglecting the resistance due to material and wall thickness is considered small, then our overall heat transfer coefficient is reduced up to this. And here in case of cylinder, the overall heat transfer coefficient is based on the inner surface is separate and based on the outer surface is separate. And here there is a correction I need to make. And the above equations that are already discussed are based on that is essentially valid only for clean and uncorroded surface. However, in real life, the surfaces are getting covered by ash, soot, dirt, and scale, and this phenomena of rust formation and deposition of fluid impurities is called as fouling. And for that purpose, we will define equivalent scale heat transfer coefficient HS. And the thermal resistance due to such scale formation is given by this formula: RSI is equal to 1 divided by AI HSI. That is based on the scale which has been deposited on the inner surface, and for outer surface separate resistance is there. RSO is equal to 1 upon AOHSO. Now here, with inclusion of these resistances at inner and outer, we can write down this formula, and here UI is there and UO is there. And the fouling factor is given by this formula, that RF is equal to 1 over U dirty minus 1 over U clean. Now we will begin our today's topic, that is logarithmic mean temperature difference. So first we need to focus on these two figures. So in previous lecture also these figures has been discussed, that in case of condensation process, the temperature of hot fluid remains constant. That is, over here the temperature of condensing steam remains constant, and here only phase change is happening. And on the other side, for the cold fluid, the temperature of cold fluid keeps on increasing as it passes through the heat exchanger. Similarly, in case of evaporation, the temperature of cold fluid which is to be evaporated remains constant over here. and here Tc remains constant, and on the opposite end for the hot fluid, the temperature of hot fluid keeps on decreasing as it passes through the heat exchanger. Now here during the heat exchange between two fluids, the temperature of the fluids change in the direction of the flow, and consequently there occurs a change in thermal head causing the flow of heat. So what is the meaning of this thermal head? We can say thermal head or thermal potential or temperature potential. What is the meaning of this? Here the difference between the temperature of two fluids, that is this difference theta 1, and here this is the temperature theta 2. So these two are known as thermal head, and as you can see there is a decrease in thermal head as the fluids passes through this heat exchanger. At the beginning it is maximum, and one more condition that we need to see here, that here both are flowing in the same direction. That's why the thermal head keeps on reducing, and the same is applicable over here also, that thermal head here is theta 1, and here the thermal head is at the exit it is theta 2, and it keeps on decreasing as it passes through the heat exchanger. So here the figure represents the temperature or condition of existing in the surface condenser or feed water heater. The hot fluid is steam and cold fluid is water. So currently we are discussing this portion, first figure. Here the temperature of steam remains constant, but the temperature of water is progressively rising, as it can be seen in the figure. During the heat exchange in evaporation of water into steam, that is in the second figure, the water evaporates at constant temperature, and the temperature of hot gases continuously decreases in flowing from inlet to outlet, that can be seen in the second figure. Now here we are discussing the change in the thermal head in parallel flow and counter flow heat exchanger. In many instances, both fluids experience a change in temperature while flowing through the heat exchanger. That can be seen here, that both the fluids are observing temperature change. So first we will discuss about parallel flow. So here in parallel flow, both fluids are having entry from here. So let me write down this as a hot fluid. So entry is this and exit is this. In case of cold fluid, the entry is here and exit is here. So at the entry, the hot fluid is having highest temperature over here, and cold fluid is having lowest temperature over here. And as the hot fluid moves in the heat exchanger, its temperature decreases, and for the cold fluid its temperature increases. So the thermal head, that is theta value, keeps on decreasing as it moves through this heat exchanger. So the same thing is shown over here, that in parallel flow system, the thermal head causing the heat flow is maximum at the inlet, that theta value is maximum at the inlet. However, the thermal head goes on diminishing along the flow path and is minimum at outlet. Now in counter flow system, both fluids are at their coldest state at the exits. Now let's see this. First of all, there is some mistake over here that I need to eliminate. Printing mistake is there, that we will not count. This is here, it will be TC1 and here it will be TC2. So these two things are printing mistake here, and this value will be here TC1 and here it is TC2. So if you focus here, then hot fluid is entering from here and cold fluid is entering from here. So both are entering from the opposite ends of the heat exchanger, and the cold fluid is leaving here and hot fluid is leaving here. So here in this case, the thermal head variations are not that significant, because the hot fluid as it passes from this direction, its temperature keeps on decreasing in this way, and for the cold fluid which is entering from the opposite end, its temperature keeps on increasing in this direction. So the thermal head theta1, and if you see its variation throughout this exchanger till theta2, there is not significant change in the thermal head, and both fluids are in their coldest state at the exit. That is, here the hot fluid is at its minimum temperature and cold fluid is also at its minimum temperature. Now to calculate the rate of heat transfer by expression UA delta T, an average value of temperature difference between two fluids has to be determined. So for that purpose, the following assumptions will be made. The first assumption is the overall heat transfer coefficient U, this U value is constant throughout the heat exchanger. Second is the specific heat and mass flow rate, that is the value of mass flow rate M, comma the value of specific heat C. Both fluids are constant, and the heat capacities of fluids are constant over the entire length of flow path. Now what is the meaning of this the heat capacity? The meaning of heat capacity is, it will be denoted as capital C like this, which will be multiplication of mass and specific heat C. So this is known as heat capacity of fluid. So heat capacity is also remaining constant. The next is the heat exchanger is perfectly insulated and do heat loss to surrounding. The heat loss to the surrounding is negligible. Fourth is the temperature at any cross section of stream is uniform, that there is no variations in temperature at particular cross section of stream. The next is there is no conduction of heat along the exchanger tubes of exchanger. So conduction is not present along the tubes. Sixth is the kinetic energy and potential energy changes are negligible. And the last assumption is there is no partial phase change in the system. Now the analysis would be based on either purely sensible heat or purely latent heat. So why we are focusing on this part, that that here it is written that it will be purely a sensible heat or purely latent heat. So the previous figures that we discussed, that were of condensation and evaporation, in that it was only purely latent heat, that is phase change was there. So either we will assume that it is having purely a phase change, or only sensible heat is present, that is no phase change is happening and only temperature difference is there for heat exchange. So these are the assumptions that we are making. Now we will calculate the logarithmic mean temperature difference for parallel flow heat exchanger. So here first of all we will focus on this figure. This is very known figure to you, in which the hot fluid is moving from left to right, as well as the cold fluid is also moving from left to right. So this is the example of parallel flow heat exchanger, and the temperature variations are also known to you now, that here both fluids are entering from the left hand side, so thermal heat is maximum at the left hand side and it keeps on decreasing and it becomes minimum at the exit. The thermal heads are θ1 and θ2. The temperature at entry is TH1 and temperature at exit is TH2 for hot fluid. Similarly, the temperature at entry of cold fluid is TC1 and at exit it is TC2. Now what we are doing here, that we are considering a small section here, that is, if you see, we are considering a small element of heat exchanger, that is from here till here, and here the length of the cross section is up to this. Its length is given as dx and it is located at a distance of x from the beginning of heat exchanger, that is written over here. So now at this section, let us assume that temperature of hot fluid is TH and temperature of cold fluid is TC. If the figure is not visible to you, then let me move it slightly over here. I hope now it will be visible to you on the full screen. So now we have assumed that temperature here is TH and temperature here is TC, and while exiting this small element, the variation which is happening in hot fluid is dTH and variation which is happening on cold fluid is dTC. Now we will do the analysis of this heat exchanger. So here let's shift this over here. Now we will do the analysis of this. First, what we will calculate is the value of heat transfer that is happening through this small element, and it will be given by dq is equal to u into dA th minus Tc. Okay, now here we can write down this as u into dA into theta, where what is the value of theta? Theta is our thermal head, that is equal to Th minus Tc, and dA is the elementary area. Now we can write down dq is equal to mh ch into dph. Now what is this? It is our standard formula of mc delta T, and we are writing in terms of hot fluid here, and as you know that hot fluid is actually losing its heat, so dTh will be negative, so we need to put negative sign here because hot fluid is losing its heat. Now regarding dq in terms of cold fluid, we can write down this as m c d t c, and here this fluid is actually gaining the heat, so we need to put plus sign over here, and we can write down this in terms of heat capacity, that is minus capital C H into d Th, and here it will be equal to plus Cc into dTc. So based on our first equation, what we can do? dTh is equal to minus dq divided by Ch, capital Ch, and dTc can be written as plus dq upon capital Cc. So now what we can do, we can have the difference of these two. dTh minus dTc is equal to minus dq over Ch minus dq over Cc. So here what we can write down here, we can take d common, so here d into TH minus TC is equal to minus dq into 1 divided by CH plus 1 divided by CC, and here we can write down d theta is equal to minus dq into 1 divided by CH plus 1 divided by CC. So once we integrate this, if we integrate this equation, then we can obtain theta 1 minus theta 2 is equal to Q into 1 divided by CH plus 1 divided by CC, and based on this we can say that here the value of 1 divided by CH plus 1 divided by CC is equal to theta 1 minus theta 2 by Q. So this will be, why it is used as red color, because this will be utilized later on. Now instead of here dq is available, get back to our this equation, dq is available here, so instead of dq we will be utilizing this formula u dA theta. So now d theta is equal to minus u dA theta into 1 over CH plus 1 over CC. So here now d theta upon theta is equal to minus u dA into 1 over CH plus 1 over CC. So finally what we will get here, the integration will give us ln theta 1 by theta 2 is equal to u into A, and instead of this 1 upon CH plus 1 upon CC we can put theta 1 minus theta 2 over Q. So finally what we are getting here, Q is equal to UA theta 1 minus theta 2 divided by ln theta 1 over theta 2, and this will be, for us this will be Q is equal to UA theta m. This will be our final equation, where here theta m is equal to L m T d, that is logarithmic mean temperature difference, given by theta 1 minus theta 2 by ln theta 1 by theta 2. So this is our LMTD for parallel flow heat exchanger. And now let's copy this portion So now we will be deriving the same equation for counter flow heat exchanger, and here also the same thing is done, but the difference is only the direction of fluid changes. That is, here the hot fluid is in from left to right and cold fluid is from right to left. Here also there is a printing mistake. Here we will consider this direction will be this for cold fluid and this is for hot fluid. So here we will have TC1 and here we will have TC2. Now let's begin with our analysis part. So as we have already done the whole thing for parallel flow, we will quickly move into the details of this theory. So here we will begin with dq is equal to minus mh ch dth, and here we can write down equal to mc cc dTc, and here we were previously writing plus sign over here. This plus sign was there because it was gaining the heat, but however in this case TC1 and here it is TC2. So now here the direction of cold fluid is in opposite direction, so because of that negative direction of flow, we are putting negative sign here for that purpose. So this negative is for heat being lost or temperature reduction, and this negative sign is due to the opposite direction. Now here we can write down this as minus ch dth is equal to minus cc dTc. Now here this is the value of dq. So based on that, what we can write down here, dth is equal to dq over ch with negative sign over here, and dTc is equal to minus dq divided by cc, and here dth minus dTc is equal to minus dq upon ch plus dq upon cc is equal to minus dq into 1 upon ch minus 1 upon cc. So here what we will be getting here, this will be written as d common th minus tc is equal to d theta is equal to minus dq into 1 upon CH plus minus 1 upon CC and now if we integrate this, then we will get theta 1 minus theta 2 is equal to dq into 1 upon ch minus 1 upon cc. So this is the value. Okay, here only q is there. So here what we are getting, the value of 1 upon capital CH minus 1 upon capital CC is equal to theta 1 minus theta 2 by q. So this will be used later on. Now here we were having the value of dq that is written over here. We can write down d theta is equal to minus u a theta into, this is u not v, u a theta 1 upon ch minus 1 upon cc. So here now d theta upon theta is equal to minus u into 1 upon ch minus 1 upon cc. So what we can do now, we can integrate this. So ln theta 1 by theta 2 is equal to ua, and instead of 1 upon ch minus 1 upon cc, you can put theta 1 minus theta 2 upon q. So here q is equal to ua into theta 1 minus theta 2 by ln theta 1 by theta 2, which can be written as ua theta m. So here finally we are getting q is equal to ua theta m, with theta m being equal to theta 1 minus theta 2 upon ln theta 1 over theta 2. This is equal to LMTD for counter flow heat exchanger, and both are same, but what will be the difference here? In LMTD for counter flow, theta 1 will be equal to TH1 minus TC2, and theta 2 will be equal to TH2 minus TC1. And here in this case the theta 1 value will be equal to TH1 minus TC1, and theta 2 will be equal to TH2 minus TC2. That will be the difference. So we need to copy this in our previous theory. So this will be there. And for the counter flow heat exchanger, So we are now done with the derivation of LMTD for parallel flow and counter flow heat exchanger. Now our next theory is correction factor for multipass arrangements. So the relation that we already derived, that is theta m is equal to theta 1 minus theta 2 by ln theta 1 by theta 2 for log mean temperature difference, is only applicable for the single pass heat exchangers. So this is very important thing, that the derivation that has been done is only for single pass heat exchangers. And suppose we are having the multiple tubes, several heat shell passes or cross flow, in actual arrangement is considered by identifying correction factor F, such that this correction factor F will be added to consider the effect of this multiple tube, shell passes or cross flow. Now the LMTD theta 1 corresponds, in this equation it corresponds for counter flow double pipe heat exchanger with same fluid inlet and outlet temperature as in the actual complex design. So now the correction factors, that F values, will be available from the figures. These figures are provided in our next slide. Okay. So here the data is presented as function of two non-dimensional parameters P and Z. We will see what is the value of P and Z. These are in terms of temperatures of hot and cold fluids. The parameter P is ratio of raise of temperature of cold fluid to the temperature difference of two fluids. To repeat, P will be defined in this way. First, ratio is, on numerator we are having raise of temperature of cold fluid, that is Tc2 minus Tc1, to the difference in temperature of two fluid at the inlet, that is Th1 minus Tc1. Now the second parameter, that is Z, over here we have seen the parameter value P, and now we will see parameter value Z. It is defined as the ratio of temperature drop of hot fluid to temperature rise in the cold fluid. So it is given by this Z. Hot fluid is in the numerator, that is Th1 minus Th2 divided by Tc2 minus Tc1. Now for the plots, it is immaterial if the hot fluid flows through shell or tube passes. Since no arrangement can be more effective than counter flow, the correction factor is always less than unity. So suppose we are having simple counter flow, then F will be equal to 1, and that is the ideal case. But in real case, it will be less effective than the counter flow arrangement. So F will be always less than unity, and it is the value indicating the performance level of given arrangement for given terminal fluid temperature. Now let's see these graphs. So here, as I was telling you, that we are having two values P and Z, and our objective is, based on these two, we need to calculate the correction factor F. So this correction factor in this figure is for exchanger with one shell pass, 2, 4 or any multiple tube passes. So here P is on the horizontal axis, Z is given with these curves. So once we get these two values, that is when we obtain these two values, then we can obtain the value of F. So for example, let's say that P is equal to, let's say 0.4 is there. Just a very crude example we are taking here, and Z value, let's say it to be 1.5. So 0.4 line for P value is this. And the Z curve is here. So this will be the z value. The z curve is this, that is of 0.5 value. So there will be a common point that we are obtaining here, that is the intersection point is this. So what we will be getting here is this will be our value of correction factor, which will be slightly above the 0.75. So roughly we can say that the correction factor f is equal to 0.77. Very roughly we are writing right now. So in this way you can obtain the correction factor. The next is the correction factor for plot for heat exchanger with 2 shell passes, 4, 8 or multiple tube passes. So here in this way we can get this. So we will not repeat this, it is very similar to this process, and these are corresponding to further curves for cross flow heat exchanger in this way. The graph remains same, but the value will be different for each case. Now our next theory is effectiveness and effectiveness and number of transfer units, NTU. Now the LMTD approach that we saw is only useful when the inlet and outlet temperatures are either known or can be easily known or can be determined from the relevant data. Why? Because if you recall, the calculation of theta1 and theta2 requires both inlet and outlet temperature. However, in real life, we only have the value of fluid inlet temperature and estimated heat transfer coefficient. So we are not aware of the outlet conditions. In real life, the exit temperatures of heat exchangers may be unknown, and we need to calculate the heat transfer as well as surface area required for specific heat transfer. So it is said that the following values may not be available to us in real life. TH1 and TH2 and TC2 may not be available to us in real life. So in such cases, LMTD approach becomes difficult when we have these two as unknown values. From the energy balance, the heat given up by the hot fluid is picked up by the coolant on being transferred through the heat exchanger. So this is already known formula, and this is the value of theta m, and this is written for counter flow arrangement. Now the outlet conditions of each fluid may be worked out by eliminating Q between above two equations. That is, we can compare this with this value, where putting the whole theta m is this. The resulting equations, however, become unwieldy, requiring trial and error method approach owing to logarithmic function in theta m. So here this is the logarithmic function which is coming in between. So trial and error method will be very difficult here. Let me write down for once that what we are trying to say here, that the equation will be like this: m c c c tc2 minus tc1, which is equal to UA. Instead of theta m, what we can write down? TH1 minus TC2 minus TH2 minus TC1 divided by ln TH1 minus TC2 divided by TH2 minus TC1. So this is the way we need to arrange the equation, and here we are not aware of which things. We are not aware of TC2, we are not aware of TH2, here also TC2, here TC2 is there and TH2 is there. So similarly we can write down the equation for in terms of here MHCH TH1 minus TH2. However, this trial and error method will be very tedious one to do. So an estimate or analysis of heat exchanger can be made more conveniently by NTU approach. This is the new approach that we are going to discuss in our next lecture, that is number of transfer unit. Which is based on three concepts. First is capacity ratio, second is effectiveness, and number of transfer units. So here this approach will help us in comparison between various types of heat exchangers which may be used for particular application. And next our theory is capacity ratio, and this will be discussed in our next lecture. So in our next lecture we will be discussing about capacity ratio, heat exchanger effectiveness, and number of transfer units. So what we have done in today's lecture, today we began with LMTD. First we discussed about the case of condensation and evaporation where temperature of one fluid remains constant. Then we saw the temperature variation in case of parallel and counter flow heat exchanger. Then this is here we derived the LMTD for parallel flow, and then we derived it for counter flow. Next we discussed about correction factors for multiple pass arrangements, and we also discussed about the limitations of LMTD and why we require another method, that is number of transfer unit. So this is end of today's lecture. Thank you for watching this video.